Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Nandar Bhagो Vigamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Tiranganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam
जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय शिल प्रभुपाद जय गौर निताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौर जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय शिल प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय शिल प्रभुपाद 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 जय शिल प्रभुपाद 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 जय शिल प्रभुपाद श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा हे गुरु बंद मुई सावधान मते बंद बंद मुई सावधान मते बंद जाहर प्रसादे भाई ए भवतरिया जा जा जाहर प्रसादे भाई ए भवतरिया जा कृष्ण प्राप्ति होय जा होते कृष्ण कृष्ण प्राप्ति হয় যাহা হইতে কৃষ্ণ गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चित्ते करिया गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चित्ते करिया क्या गुरुमुख गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चित्ते करिया क्या गुरुमुख आर न करिह मने आशा आर न करिह मने आशा श्री गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिल जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान चक्षुदान दिल जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते प्रेम प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते प्रेम प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवन लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवन आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया 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 एबे जस घुसुक त्रिभुवन शिल प्रभुपाद पतित पावन आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया एबे जस घुसुक त्रिभुवन शिल प्रभुपाद पतित पावन जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद प्रभुपाद 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 नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमः। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्य पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. You sing, no. No. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना
वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Today we're celebrating the auspicious appearance of Sri Varahadev Mahadwarasi, And instead of the regular reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, we're going to sing the beautiful sloka written by Srila Jayadev Goswami in his Das Avatar Stotram. This is number 7 sloka. Vasati dasana sikare dharani tava lagna Shashini kalanka kaleva nimagna Keshavadrita shukara rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Word translation here. Vasati remains. Dasana shikare, to the tip of your tusk. Dharani, the earth. Tava, your. Lagna, stuck. Shashini, to the moon. Kalanka kaleva, like a small spot. Nimagna, attached. Keshava, O Keshava, Dhrita, was assumed, Sukara Rupa, by whom the form of a boar like a spot upon the moon. This is a translation by His Holiness Bhanu Swami of the commentary of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. So I'm going to read his translation and purport, where we can move on from there. The translation he gives is, "The earth remains stuck to the tip of your tusk, like a small spot embedded on the crescent moon. O Keshava, who assumes the form of a boar, victory to you, O protector of the worlds, O destroyer of suffering." Commentary. O Keshava, who assumed the form of a boar, the purpose in appearing as a boar is described here. The earth, which supports all people, remains stuck to the tip of your tusks, like a small spot attached, that's nimagna, to the moon. Moon is compared to his tusks. The phrase, like a spot attached to moon, suggests the shape of the young waxing moon, a crescent moon, which is long and thin. The phrase is thus not useless in the verse. The moon analogy is useful in explaining the shape of the tusk, which is like a young crescent moon. Also, the earth is nourished by contact with the tusks. Like moon nourishes the earth, the tusks also nourish the earth. Dashana means tooth, according to Amar Kosh. Shikara means the tip or the peak of a mountain. According to Vishwa, Kala means a small portion or one of the 16 phases of the moon. The 16 phases of the moon are Pratipad, Dvitiya, Tritiya, etc., up to Purnima and Amavasya.
Can you speak on the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We'll repeat the translation again. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which has become immersed in the Garbhodak ocean, at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk, like a spot upon the moon. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddle Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschati Deshatarine Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. When Prabhupada was present, he gave 2 lectures on this day. One was given very early in 1969 in Los Angeles. In 1969, Srila Prabhupada only had printed the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And from the second canto, there's description of the appearance of Varahadev. So the devotees were not aware of the details of Varahadeva's appearance. So Srila Prabhupada, at that time, for the benefit of the devotees who knew very little about Varahadev, he spoke this Dasavatar Stotra, and he didn't stop with Varahadev. He went through each one of the slokas so that the devotees could understand the glories of all the Leela avatar of the Lord. And that was his lecture. Then at the very end of Srila Prabhupada's presence with us, in 1977, Srila Prabhupada went to Bhubaneswar to see how the construction was going there, the land that had been purchased. And he spoke on that day. Now Prabhupada's mood was very different. Prabhupada had been with the devotees by that time for 11 years. The devotees had, up to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, they were well aware of who Varahadev was and what his glories were. So Prabhupada spoke in a different manner. He answered all the questions of why, when, how, where, what. Everything about Lord Varahadev in this lecture. His first explanation was, why did Lord Varahadev appear? Because here we was to save the earth. One of his leelas, to pick up the earth from the Garbhodak ocean. But Prabhupada gave the internal reason. He said that the Lord appeared as a boar, and in all of his incarnations, simply to enjoy. That was his purpose for assuming the form of a boar. The Lord he can assume any form he wants. Everything comes from him. But in this particular instance, we know there are 5 major rasas, and there's 7 sub-rasas, the temporary rasas. One of them is Vira ras. So the Lord in Vaikuntha, he wanted to experience with his devotees Vira ras, but in Vaikuntha, everyone is his friend, no one's going to dare fight with him, it's a different mood, Aishwarya Bhav. So he wanted to fight with someone. And therefore, he arranged a very special pastime by which his 2 very, very dear devotees, Jai and Vijay, would fight with him. In that way, one day the 4 Kumaras, this is just at the very beginning of the creation, and this is described in the 2nd canto, when Sutta Goswami describes the primary creation and then the secondary creation by Lord Brahma. So we know that Lord Brahma his first sons were the 4 Kumaras. And Lord Brahma, because he was the son of the Supreme Lord, he understood that his duty was to create the progeny, to fill up the universe. So when the 4 Kumaras appeared, he instructed them to, now you should create progeny. And they refused for a higher purpose, because they wanted liberation from the material world. They didn't want to take part in mundane activities like creating progeny. So Lord Brahma got angry, and then Rudra came, and then after Rudra, his progeny were destroying the universe, so Brahma told him to just sit down and meditate. A few more creations, the great sages from the different parts of Brahma's body. And the 4 Kumaras, because they were released, they refused their father's instruction, they wandered around the universe. They were Brahmavadis. They were impersonalists, but they weren't Mayavadis. They meditated on the Lord in their hearts. So they were wandering, and they came to the gates of Vaikuntha, 7 gates. Here we have 4 gates. You can enter from any of them. So there are 7 gates. And they went through the different gates, and they got to the 7th gate, and there were the powerful and most devoted guards standing at the 7th gate, Jai and Vijay. And when Jai and Vijay saw the little boys, they stopped them. They said, "You're just little children, you're not qualified to enter Vaikuntha, come back later." And being Brahmavadis, Brahmins, the tendency, Prabhupada explains, the tendency of Brahmins is to get angry. So they got angry at the devotees of the Lord, which isn't really appropriate. They cursed them. They said, you're not qualified to be here in Vaikuntha. You should go to the material world. Now this curse was also given by Lakshmi. There's a verse that sometimes is put into the Bhagavatam and sometimes not put into the Bhagavatam. And that verse is that one time Lakshmi came and Vishnu was sleeping. And she wanted to enter, and Jai and Vijay stopped her because they didn't want her to wake up Vishnu. So she at that time also became angry at Jai and Vijay. So this anger of the devotees against other devotees finally culminated at this point when the 4 Kumaras gave an actual curse. So they were very upset, and of course Vishnu could understand everything, so he came. And then when the 4 Kumaras saw him, although they had been meditating on the Lord in their heart, that form that they saw of the personality of Godhead was so enchanting, and the aroma of the tulsi buds, it just stole their heart and their minds away. So Vishnu, Narayan being very merciful to the devotees, Jai and Vijay, he didn't want to change the curse, but he gave an option to them that yes, certainly you will go and take birth, but you have a choice. You can take birth 3 times as demons or 7 times as devotees. And Jai and Vijay, they wanted to get back so quickly, they decided, well, better we take 3 births as demons. There must be some purpose for this. The Lord must want to fight. So we want to get back quickly. And then Prabhupada explains that actually Narayan told them that I don't want you to leave. You stay here and just send your expansions. Now sometimes Krishna does that. We also have that example when Sridham was cursed by Radharani. He had Sridham stay here, and his expansion went to the material world. He became Jaladhar. So now Jai and Vijay were falling down to take this birth. And why? Because the Lord wanted to fight with someone. And when the Lord fights, we have the example also when Krishna fought with Kamsa. Krishna and Balaram, they killed all the wrestlers, and then Krishna killed Kamsa. And then all the cowherd boys who were there with them, they came running into the arena, and they were all cheering and jumping and playing and wrestling with each other. And the cowherd boys, they defeated Krishna at that time. They pinned him down. Because that's the way Krishna plays with his friends. He allows them to defeat him. So that's the benefit of Krishna fighting with his friends. They can defeat him, he can defeat them, because the devotees are on an equal level with Krishna. So, all right, that's why the Lord appeared. And Prabhupada gave 3 slokas from the Brahma Samhita to support this. First was, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishthan. To Rama, what does Rama mean? Ram. There are 3 Rams, we know that. Just after this incarnation, there's the dwarf, and then there's the 3 Ramas. There's Parshuram, there's Rama who killed Ravana, and then there's Balaram, who carried the plow. So Ram means pleasure. The Lord takes these Leela avatars just for his pleasure. Then to support that, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavi. Simply everything is for the Lord's enjoyment. Everything. Even we're for the Lord's enjoyment, but we don't want to enjoy with Him, so we're here suffering. Then he quoted Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam, that the Lord has unlimited incarnations. But there's some principal incarnations that are listed again and again in the Puranas, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam that we study. And that's the 25 Lila avatars. Now these Lila avatars, they appear in every day of Lord Brahma. Within every day of Lord Brahma, which because when Lord Brahma had created the sages, Rudra, the four Kumars, he tried to populate the universe, but it wasn't going very well. There weren't enough people. So then he, while thinking, how can I do this, came Swayambhuva Manu, which was the first Manu in the day of Brahma. Swayambhuva because he's the son of Swayambhuva, just like Vasudeva and Vasudeva. And along with Swayambhuva Manu came his wife Satarupa. And from them, from the Bhagavatam, we know 2 sons and 3 daughters. And Swayambhuva Manu, he was respectful. He asked his father, what shall I do? His father told him to progenate. And then he asked, where shall I live? Because this is what happens. There are 14 Manus. And when they are reigning, it's called Manvantara. It's the time of the Manu. In between each Manu reigning, there's what's called a Sandhya. Just like we have 3 Sandhyas, that's when Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, because it's neither day nor night, these Sandhyas. So during this Sandhya time, there's dissolution. And during this time of dissolution, the earth and the other planets fall down into the bottom of the universe, in the Garbhodak ocean, below Patala Loka. Now the Sandhya was still going on, and then Swayambhuva Manu came. So when Swayambhuva Manu, this is all described in the 2nd canto, asked his father, where should I live? He then said to his father, because earth is the dwelling place of all the living entities where we create our karma to go up, down, stay, or go back to the spiritual world. So Swayambhuva Manu said to Brahma that right now the earth is in the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. You please lift her up. So Brahma was thinking, how am I going to lift the earth planet? And we know that when Brahma was blessed by the Lord infused in him through breathing. So Brahma, through his breathing out of his nose, came the personification of the 4 Vedas. He was very small, just the tip of the thumb. And he was in the form of a boar. So the demigods were all there, Manu was there, his nose. And his size was long, and 3,000 yojanas wide. That's pretty big, because so when the demigods, the residents of Janalok, Tapalok, Satyalok, saw this incredible manifestation of the Lord as a boar, they began to offer beautiful prayers to him. And the Lord, in appreciation, because he was a boar, he roared jubilantly. Each time they offered prayers, 3 times he roared. And then he dove into the Garbhodak ocean to fulfill his purpose. When he got down to the bottom and he saw the earth planet, first he lifted her with his front paws, and then he put her on his tusk. And that's where this description comes that Jayadev Goswami gave. Because we know what a crescent moon looks like. Well, it looks like the Lord's tusk. And on the top of that tusk was situated, in some places it says that Dharani, or Mother Earth, was situated on his left tusk, just like a little spot on the moon. And then in other places it said that he placed her on both of his tusks. So how is that? Because when Maitreya and Vidura were discussing this whole incarnation, because Lord Sri Krishna had left the planet, Maitreya had heard the last instructions given to Uddhava. Vidura, who was feeling intense separation from his Lord, he wanted to hear everything because he was a pure devotee. Now Maitreya, he considered himself not as advanced as Vidura. He said, the Lord used to put his feet on your lap, and you used to massage his feet. Who am I to speak? But Vidura was so eager to hear about the Lord. He asked him question after question. So Maitreya, he began to describe this incarnation of the Lord as a boar. Now these Leela avatars, in each day of Brahma, sometimes they appear twice. For instance, Matsya, the first Leela avatar, and they're also called Kalpa avatars because one day of Brahma is also called a Kalpa, and then the Leela avatars appear in those Kalpas. So Matsya, he also took two incarnations. In one incarnation, he killed the demon Hayagriva who had stolen the Vedas. And in the other incarnation, he gave special mercy to his devotee Satyavrata Muni. And those descriptions are combined together. Now in the case of Lord Boar, Varahadev, he also appeared twice. This first time was in the Svayambhuva Manu time, the first Manu, when the earth and all the planets had fallen down into the Garbhodak ocean. The second time was in the Chakshusha Manvantar. That's the 6th Manu. Right now we're in the 7th Manu. That's Vaivasvata Manu. And we're in the 28th cycle because each Manu goes through 71 cycles of Sattva, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. So we know we're in the 28th of the 7th Manvantara. So the 6th Manvantara is Chakshusha Manu. At that time, is described by Prabhupada, at that time he killed Hiranyaksha. So the first time he lifted the earth, at Svayambhuva Manu's first Manvantara, and on the 6th Manvantara, that's when he killed the Hiranyaksha. That's hard to understand. So what Maitreya Muni did when he was describing to Vidura is, he combined the two incarnations. He made it into one Leela, that he lifted up the earth, and when Hiranyaksha, because Hiranyaksha, when Brahma made the creation, one of the first progenitors was Daksha. He came from the thumb of the Lord. And Daksha had many daughters. So in those days, the women were allowed to choose who they wanted to marry. And Daksha asked his daughters, maybe not directly, maybe through the grandmother or some other way, he found out who they wanted to marry. Like for instance, the youngest daughter, Sati, she wanted to marry Lord Shiva. And the 13 of his daughters, they wanted to marry the progenitor, the Prajapati named Kasyapa Muni. And Diti was one of them. All of those 13 daughters married Kasyapa Muni, And all of them were given children by Kashyapa Muni except for Diti. And she was feeling quite jealous and left out. So, not simply out of sex desire, but because she wanted progeny. She was a devotee. This is the very beginning of the creation. Devotee of the Lord. Her husband was a devotee of Lord Shiva. He worshipped Lord Shiva, but they all were fully aware of who the Supreme Lord was. She went to her husband at the wrong time and implored him to please give me a child. All of my co-wives have children. I'm the only one without. You should do your duty and give me a child. And he told her, I'm happy to fulfill your desire, because he wasn't like Haridas Thakur. He actually didn't mind engaging in such activities with his wives. Haridas Thakur, he was able to bring Maya Devi herself up to the level of pure devotion. But Kashyapa Muni, being a grihastha, he said, I'm happy to fulfill your desire, but it's not an auspicious time. My younger brother, who was Lord Shiva, younger brother because Lord Shiva was married to the younger sister, so he was the brother-in-law of Kashyapa. He said, this is a time when he wanders around with all the ghostly entities, looking for wombs of women who are performing these acts at this inauspicious time. So if we have this act now, you'll have a very bad child. So he asked her to wait. She said, no, I can't wait. She pulled on his cloth. So, being overcome by his wife, he was called henpecked, he sat with her and injected twice his semen. Now, this is according to the Vedas. The first time, that's the eldest son. And the second time, that's the younger son, for the father, because he gave the first one, then the second one. But when the babies come out, for the mother, the first one who comes out is the eldest. And the opinion always goes above the mother's opinion. For the father, Hiranyakashipu was the elder, and Hiranyaksha was the younger. But for the mother, Hiranyaksha was the elder, and Hiranyakashipu was the younger. So the mother has more authority. Hiranyaksha always tries to please his elder brother, Hiranyakashipu. And when Hiranyakashipu got his boons from Lord Brahma, Hiranyaksha also got boons. And he was terrorizing the entire universe. He claimed all the planets. He was just looking for someone to fight with, but everyone just kept running away from him. He was so powerful. So finally, he went down into the ocean looking for Varuna Dev. And Varuna, he's in charge of Patala Loka down at the bottom of the ocean. It's very dark there. The name of his city is Vibhavari. Means there's no sunlight there, just like we start our day, Vibhavati Shesha, means that darkness is over now. Get up and start to glorify the Lord. So in Vibhavati, Varuna was sitting, and Hiranyaksha, he comes in, and just as a joke, he offers his respects to Varuna. He says, I want to fight with you. And Varuna, he said, well, I'm old now, I've taken sannyas, I've become peaceful, and I wouldn't be a good person for you to fight with. Better you fight with Vishnu. You'll get a good fight then, and he'll have you lying down on the battlefield. So Hiranyaksha got very excited. Where is this Vishnu? He started looking for Vishnu. And it so happened that Narada Muni was there in the city. Narada Muni happily told him, he said, oh, Vishnu, yes, he's gone down into the Garbhodak ocean to lift up the earth. What? Lift up the earth? The earth belongs to me. How can he take the earth? So he had a reason to fight then over the earth. So at the same time, this is the way Maitreya Muni joined these two avatars together. At the same time, Lord Varaha was lifting up the earth and came to the surface. And he had the earth still on his tusk. But then, Hiranyaksha, he started to insult the Lord in so many ways. And you know how demons are, just like with Shishupal. Everything he said could be turned around as a glorification of the Lord. So all of his insults to the Lord were actually another form of glorification, according to the demigods. So when the Lord heard all these insults, he became angry. But he had tusks. And he didn't want to fight with her on his tusk, so he very carefully lifted with his paws again and put her on the surface and instilled his energy into her so that she would float. And then he was ready to fight. And they had such a good fight. It takes up 2 whole chapters in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this fight. Because this is why the Lord had come. He wanted to fight. So he made the best of it. They were observing all the rules of conduct and fighting. And when striking each other, Hiranyaksha threw his club and knocked out the club from Varaha's hand, and the club went rolling. So Hiranyaksha didn't take advantage. He was following conduct. He waited for the Lord to pick up his club again. And then, at one point, he threw his club at Varaha again, and Varaha just very gently picked it up and said, "Here, you can have it back." And that really insulted Varaha. And at that point, Varaha then disappeared, and with so many mystic tricks, he was and all of the demigods were getting so frightened because they couldn't understand about Jai and Vijay. Only Brahma knew. So when the demigods became frightened, Brahma came forward. He said, "This rascal, you should kill him immediately. Now is Abhijit time. This is the best time for killing demons, because soon after this will come twilight when he'll become more powerful." He's simply a rascal, because what demons do is they take the power from the demigods, and then they use that same power to kill the demigods. The example is Vrikasura. He got a boon from Shiva that whoever's head could have Shiva's wife. So this is exactly what Hiranyaksha did. He got boons from Brahma, and then he used those same boons to devastate the whole universe and cause all the planets to fall down. And it was just, everyone was hiding due to his strength. And this was all just to please Hiranyakashipu, who also met his end in the same way. So after all of the mystic tricks, Brahma said, "You just please kill him immediately. He's not even worth your time." She came back. Then Varaha, he very easily just got his Sudarshan chakra, and we know in the Sikshastakam, the word is marmahata, right? You can make me brokenhearted. So on the body, there are different marmas. Now one marma, if you ever want to kill anybody, there's a marma under the ears. You just have to press, and the person will die, because there's no protective area there. That's why it's a marma. It's a point of very delicate. So that's what Varahadev did. He took his paw and he simply slapped him under the ear at this marma point. And all of a sudden, Hiranyaksha's eyes popped out, and his hair and his arms and his legs all started to scatter, and he fell dead. That was how easy it was, because the Lord was finished playing. Now when they were fighting, they were compared to, we can see this in Vrindavan, two bulls fighting over a cow. Because Mother Earth, her name is Ila. Ila can mean a cow, Ila can mean the earth. It has different meanings. And we know that sometimes Mother Earth assumes the form of a cow. So because Virahadev, he was saving Mother Earth, the cow, and Hiranyaksha, he wanted to take this Mother Earth. He felt it was his possession. So they were fighting just like two bulls. Now the war was over, and Virahadev, along with Dharani, he went back to the spiritual world. Now there's a Purana, it's a Vaishnav Purana. It's called Varaha Purana. Sometimes in Prabhupada's books it's called Mahavaraha Purana. Sometimes it's called Adi Varaha Purana. In the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Sukadeva Goswami gives a list of all the Puranas, this Varaha Purana originally had 24,000 slokas. Now only a little over 10,000 remain with us. And that Varaha Purana, it's quoted extensively by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because in that first incarnation, when Virahadev lifted up Mother Earth, and she was on his tusks for 1,000 years. After that time, the 71st Kardama Prajapati time came at the end of the Swayambhuva Manu, and that was the time of when Virahadev and Mother Earth are worshipped. At that time, Mother Earth, she was so grateful that the Lord had protected her. She began to ask him questions, all about Sanatana Dharma, and about the Supreme Lord, about the creation, all the questions that we also are answered in the Mahabhagavat Purana. But this entire Purana is a conversation between Virahadev and Dharani, Mother Earth, all of her questions. And you'll find in so many of the Shastras that we read, because Virahadev explained to her the entire system of Pancharakriti Vidhi. He explained to her all the offenses to avoid. He explained to her, and we don't get this always in our books, if one commits the offenses, what the expiations are. Like if you wear a blue cloth, the result of wearing a blue cloth while worshiping the Lord is you become a worm for 100 lifetimes. But there's an expiation to that. So that means, what is the offense? What happens if you commit the offense? And how to resolve the result of that offense. So many, many chapters about all the offenses in deity worship, offenses in devotional service, that we study in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Because the entire essence of Varaha Purana, just like Bhagavad Purana, is bhakti. Everything is leading to worshiping the Supreme Lord. And therefore, Virahadev explains explicitly in the later chapters about the glories of Mathura Mandala. Because he says, I live eternally here in Mathura Mandala, because it is the most sacred place. And then he explains to her all the 12 different forests and all of the pastimes that happened in those 12 different forests. This is all explained to Mother Earth. And then she asks him further questions about the glories of the Holy Dham. And Virahadev explains the potency of the Holy Dham. If you want Salokya, then you come to the Dham and you do vrats here, and you visit the different holy places. Then you can live on the Lord's planet when you give up this body. If you want Sarupya, in Mathura, that means all of the 12 forests of Mathura, even the animals, the bugs, the worms, the trees, everyone, when they leave this body, corporal body. Here in Mathura, they get Sarupya Mukti. So all of these intricacies of how to go back to the spiritual world are explained in detail by Virahadev to Mother Earth in this particular incarnation. And we have the benefit because the 6 Goswamis, they took the most important part of those instructions and gave them to us in their books, like Mathura Mahima. So much of that is taken from Viraha Purana, the different incarnations. So now we'll go back to Srila Prabhupada's description of Virahadev in 1977. Srila Prabhupada, he explained that the Lord came for enjoyment, and then he explained the difference between the Lord's enjoyment and how we try to enjoy here. It so happened at that time, in the audience, some devotees had come from Hawaii. Now, Hawaii is a very special heavenly planet that exists here on Earth. Who's ever been to Hawaii? No? Nobody? You've never been to Hawaii? I had to go there for Sankirtan for 3 months. And you wouldn't believe the enjoying spirit in Hawaii, because it's a destination spot for vacation for the whole world, for Asians and also for Americans and Europeans. The weather is always perfect. The beaches, the ocean, everything is perfect for enjoyment. So these devotees had come from Hawaii, and Prabhupada saw them in the audience. He said, here we try to enjoy. Now the Lord, He is not bound by any karma. He quoted 4:14, Namam karmani limpanti. No amount of activity affects me. The Lord can do whatever He wants. And He gave the example of an owner, a director of a big company. If the workers do something wrong, the owner isn't held responsible. It's the workers themselves who are held responsible. So the Lord, He's not bound by anything He does. He appears in any form He wants to appear. But we are bound by our activities. Then He gave the quotation of Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhavan, whatever you remember at the time of death. And because Prabhupada would often go to Hawaii because it was a good place for him to not engage in management, he could just sit and translate. He said, just like I have seen in your Hawaii, the surfers, Prabhupada also called them sufferers. Now there's a special sport for people who live by the ocean. It's called surfing. And they have a long board and they try to catch the waves. And they stand up on the board and they ride along with the waves into the shore. And they have to struggle. They have to swim out, catch the wave. Sometimes they die in the wave because the wave hits them. But they're so addicted to this joy of riding on the waves. So he said, just like these surfers, they have to struggle so much for just a little bit of enjoyment of this riding on the waves. But if at the time of death, they're thinking of that enjoyment of swimming in the ocean and enjoying the waves, then certainly they'll become aquatics in the ocean. So Lord Boar, he was not that type of amphibian beast, because the boars are also in the water, they're also on the land. No, he wanted to take that form just for his own pleasure. So each one of these Leela avatars that the Lord assumes, they're simply for his pleasure so that he can enjoy with his devotees. Now, how do the Leela avatars descend? Originally, and there's no date of that origin because everything about the Supreme Lord is eternal, from Lord Krishna comes Lord Balaram, our beloved Krishna and Balaram. From Lord Balaram comes Shankarshan. And from Shankarshan come all of these Leela avatars that appear in every single day of Brahma day after day after day throughout his whole lifetime. They all have their eternal planets, and even here on earth, Lord Bor is worshipped in many different great temples. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he visited those temples when he went to South India. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was showing his different forms, this Mahaprakash Leela, there was a devotee named Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta, he was a staunch devotee of Lord Ramachandra. But one day, Lord Chaitanya was at the home of Murari Gupta, and he felt this bhav of Virahadev. So he jumped on Murari Gupta's shoulders, and he took a little lota with a spout, and he put that on his face like this, and he assumed the form of Virahadev, just for the pleasure of Murari Gupta. So the Lord, even in his Chaitanya Leela, he manifested this appearance of Virahadev. So today we can remember these beautiful pastimes because ultimately what Virahadev tells Mother Earth in describing how one can attain the perfection of life and go back to Godhead is that we always remember the wonderful pastimes of the Lord and chant His holy names. So we're very fortunate this day has been given us to remember the pastimes of Lord Virahadev. We can chant every morning we're chanting His name at Mangal Arati. So we can chant these wonderful names and be assured that because we've taken shelter of the holy name and taken shelter of the holy Dham, we will certainly go back to Godhead according to the different forms that we love and worship. Hare Krishna. I won't even ask.
How can someone believe all these stories? They sound too incredible. I mean, you need a lot of faith to believe all these things. What's your opinion on that?
Well, Virahadev warns Mother Earth in the Viraha Purana. He said none of these things should be spoken to the non-devotees because the non-devotees don't believe any of this. It's all hogwash, right? But hogwash, yes. But for us, that hogwash, when he shook his body and the water sprinkled off, the grasses came up that the sages use for their worship. So non-devotees will never accept any of this. It's all hogwash for them. And we worship that hogwash.
They're all believers.
I hope so. Yes, Viraha, that's right. So just neighboring to us is Lord Viraha. And at that Viraha, Krishna, Radharani, and the gopis, they were on their way to their Rasa Leela one night. And the gopis implored Krishna that you show us your Viraha Rupa. So they're at that place here at Viraha, the southwest corner of the Jamuna. The Lord revealed His Viraha Rup to the gopis, and that beautiful murti is there to worship. Anything else? Where are you? Oh, Pavitra. Yes, Prabhu.
3 years ago, we went to Srimad's Jata as a Kamanaj.
Lord Raj, you shut the microphone off.
After the bell stops, it'll come on again.
We went from Safari assembly with Jata Maharaj.
Yes.
And we installed Varaha because they were experiencing earthquake.
Earthquake.
Yeah. So
While you were there?
yes.
Wow.
So what was the meaning of that? The meaning of installing Varaha because of earthquake.
What is the meaning of installing Varaha because of an earthquake?
Did Jaipataka Swami tell you?
Yeah.
What did he say? I know.
They can prevent earthquakes.
Oh, wonderful, prevent earthquakes. Okay,
We should install one here.
that's right. We're in zone 2, earthquake zone. Well, we have Virahadev right here, original. And also in Mathura, the Vishram god, the two forms of Sveta and Rakta Virahadev, because after Virahadev killed Hiranyaksha, Vishram, he came to take rest at Vishram God. Virahadev came there, Nrsingadev came there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came there. So that's why it's called Vishram God. So you can also worship Virahadev there at Mathura and just 5 minutes away here at Viraha God. Any more questions? All glories to... yes.
I'm not sure if the microphone is working.
Can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Difference between Mayavadi and Brahmavadi, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
The Mayavadis are offenders. They say the Lord has no hands, no feet, nothing. So they offend the Lord. The Brahmavadis, just as in some places, the mantra, just like we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they chant the mantra Aham Brahmasmi. So they understand that they're spirit. And then from there they can go further and further. But the Mayavadis, they can't go further because they offend the Lord. That's the difference. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
We just saw Lord Brian in the building.
You're the president.
In a logical explanation, where it was from that form?
Where's what?
In a logical explanation of Vara Bhagavan.
And a
logical, that dust is a moon and all that.
Oh, that's from this book.